what do you actually sell when you're the expert? This is the number one question I get from skilled professionals all the time. What do I actually sell? And this is the context of selling something online, like a course or a digital program, so that they can scale their income. And this is a very important question because typically when you're an expert at something and when you have all this experience in something, it can be difficult to think about A, who needs me the most? B, what outcome do they need the most? C, which outcome am I most equipped to deliver? And D, how am I even going to sell this thing? And so there's a lot to unpack there, but your inclination is to sell something that's very on the nose. Like for me, I'm a skilled professional as well. My core competency is paid traffic media buying, right? And so when I think about what to sell, the first thought is like, oh, well, I'll sell agency services. I'll do advertising. I'll teach people how to run their ads and all that. But first of all, extremely commoditized. It's not exciting. Like, who's the market there that's really starving for that offer? Like, it's just not actually the best thing for me to sell with this skill set. And a lot of people don't get that. And so they fizzle out. But it's because like you're taking your boring expertise and trying to sell people the boring stuff. The boring stuff doesn't sell as well as the exciting stuff. Like it just doesn't. And when I say that, I don't mean that like that stuff isn't valuable and people don't want that stuff. I'm saying like you have to lead with the exciting stuff, even if the boring stuff is mixed in. Okay. So for me, I took that core competency and I increased my income by selling publishing. So like now what I do is I publish offers for people and use that core competency to accelerate their outcomes on that. And so what my offer stack looks like is I help skilled professionals understand the opportunity. And then out of all the customers that I get, I select a few to publish. And so you can do the same. I'll give you two examples from two skilled professions that I published. So one person that I've worked with, he was a pharmacist, but his struggle was that he followed this path, he became a pharmacist, and he wasn't building the type of wealth that he was told he would build. He wasn't getting the American dream that he was promised. And he learned that the actual wealth is in investing. And so he began investing and learning all about the stock market and investments and how all of that works and dedicating an insane amount of time to that and started having like a solid investment strategy that was growing year over year and transitioned that into teaching how you can invest if you're a busy professional and also catching the diaspora up to speed on investing because our communities tend to have less context on that. So if his offer were going to be super on the nose and completely connected to what he does, then he would be teaching something about pharmacy or pharmaceuticals or like people in med school, like very, very on the nose there. And the conversion rate probably wouldn't be fantastic. It would probably be very mediocre, like all across the board. And it would probably be a business that wasn't too profitable. But instead, he used like his developing interest and activity in investing and paired that with his authority as high earning pharmacist to create like the selling point. I'll give you another example of someone that I worked with when I was working in an agency about someone who went very on the nose. So there's this guy, he's an accountant, and he developed a program that helped accountants grow their firm or whatever. But it was like courses. And there are a few reasons that business wasn't profitable, that it could have been turned around and have been profitable if they had priced themselves differently, if they had sequenced their offers differently, and if just made better offers. So there are other reasons why that business wasn't profitable. But a big piece of that is like if you had made better offers, right? And so when you're super on the nose, sometimes it's a very mid offer, right? There's nothing exciting about it. There's no borrowed authority. It's very direct authority. And you probably actually have less authority with people in your own pool because they're comparing your skills and experience against their skills and experience and against their colleagues' skills and experience. That clashes. Whereas when you have your authority in this space, you can leverage it in another space because now they're not comparing you to themselves and their colleagues. They're comparing you to the net average of what their perception of your profession is. So let me give you another example of someone who's very successful who didn't go on the nose route. So I partnered with a coach where in the beginning of her story, she was an engineer and she got put into a position where she felt called to save a family house, and that catapulted her into becoming a real estate investor, long story short. And so now she's built up this huge portfolio that's worth 8 figures, and she's able to pass on the things that she's learned as a real estate investor, but she also has that clout running in the background as an engineer. So people think, hey, this person's smart, this person's methodical, this is a well-trained professional person, even though she's not necessarily speaking in her same category, right? So when you ask like what you sell, you should think about all of the skills you're developing, not just the skill that your title portrays, because you'll always be boxed in if you only think through the skills of your title as opposed to the skills that you you just have as a human. And I don't want that to deter you from finding the gold within your expertise. It's just, I want you to think about it a little bit more specifically and think about like, where can you have the most impact? Like, are you just going to be another average Joe with this information, with this transformation, with this outcome? Or are you going to solve a real messed up problem for people? Because I'll give you another example. If you are a relationship therapist, you can come out with an offer that's like, how to improve your relationship. That's very like mid. That's boring, bro. Like, that's not specific to any problems that I'm facing. It's just like, okay, generally, how can I improve my relationship? Why should I spend money with you on that when like I can type that into YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and see hundreds of reels and videos giving me general advice, right? General advice doesn't sell, especially in the age of ChatGPT. You can't play around with general advice. What you're actually asking people to do is trust you to help them achieve an outcome, a specific outcome. And so what that looks like if you're a relationship therapist is that you solve specific problems. So instead of I help you improve your relationship, maybe it'll be like I'll help you improve the frequency and satisfaction of sex. Or it can be, I hope you improve the sex life in your marriage, right? It's very specific. It's not just any relationship, it's a marriage. It's not just the entire marriage, it's about the sex life. And you can go deep on that for decades. Okay. People have done it. Go watch, they've got Diary of a CEO episodes with sex therapists who have been doing this for decades, right? But that specificity to the market who needs your expertise the most and who you're most equipped to serve is going to be what you sell. Okay. So again, you're thinking about who needs you the most, like what are they going through? And out of those people, who are you best equipped to serve? So something that I learned that has changed the way that I do business and how I think about offers to be sold is that everything starts with your market. People tend to think product first, which is why people have like a lot of ideas. Like, oh, I have this idea, I have this idea. That's how I was at first too, for a long time. In my notes, I have hundreds of business ideas, but they're all centered around the product or the service. You need to take a step back actually in the beginning and think about the market first. And this is the example that I learned it through, is like this example of a college professor asking his class, if you wanted to sell hot dogs, like how would you sell the most hot dogs? And you get all these answers like, oh, like I would be priced the best, or I'd have the best tasting hot dog. I'd have the best signs and best marketing and this, that, and the third. And all of the answers are wrong. Eventually the professor says, if you want to sell the most hot dogs, then you go to a starving crowd. Your quality doesn't need to be best. Your price doesn't need to be the best. Your advertising doesn't need to be the best, because you are placing your product in the audience of the most need. It reminds me of the Cowboy Carter tour that me and my fiance went to. We went early in the day to go to the merch stand, and 5 minutes standing into the line, it just starts pouring rain on all of us. And we're at the back of a very long line. And this guy pops up and he's like, ponchos for sale, $5. And they're not like fancy ponchos. They're just like the little plastic ponchos that probably cost him 10 cents a piece, 30 cents a piece from Alibaba. But this man went from an empty hand to a wad full of cash within like 5 to 10 minutes, because everybody started flocking, just sending him Cash App, sending him Apple Pay, Zelling him, throwing cash at him, leaving extra cash. Like, it was crazy. And so that's where you should start. You should start with, first of all, who needs my help the most? Who's my starving crowd? And then you think about like, okay, and based on my expertise, what am I best equipped to help people overcome, right? And from there, you pretty much have like the idea of what you're gonna sell. Like for me, transparently, even in my publishing company, like I've made that mistake multiple times. At first, I was going after coaches who already had some sales, but just couldn't figure out how to scale it. So my target was coaches doing anywhere from $8,000 to $50,000 a month, and they just couldn't figure out how to scale that business. And while I did nab like 6 or 7 people that fit that criteria, they weren't my market of most need. And so like that affects the business, right? Because it's like, how committed are they to doing everything that I need them to do? How committed are they to taking in these resources and materials and learning? And the answer is not that committed. Like they're committed to a degree because they want to grow, but not that committed because they've already been making money. So they kind of feel like, this is a good add-on. This is some good help. And then I pivoted to creators, people who had over 50,000 followers or subscribers and, didn't have a product of their own, who were relying on sponsorships and brand deals and all this stuff. But the problem on that I found with that is that I was conflating the idea of fastest to launch and fastest to monetize with the most starving crowd, because creators are not starving for my product products and services because they're already making money from deals. Even if it's not the money they want, they really view themselves as the prize because their ego is inflated by amassing all of these followers, even though their bank account isn't inflated for it. And they get deals and offers in their inbox every day because they know that everybody wants to earn something off of their audience. But now where I've landed is that skilled professionals are actually my starving crowd. So people like you watching this video, because you have the skill, you have the authority, you have the experience, but you don't have the products. You don't have this amazing following that you're able to just push out a link to and generate tens of thousands of dollars. And so you actually need my help the most because you are the most deserving audience and you have an equal amount of opportunity, but you have the least amount of context and the least amount of resources to realize the full potential of that opportunity. And the funny thing is that I didn't even realize this, but that's exactly the shoes that I was in for a majority of my career. Is like, well, I keep building up all these skills, but like my pay is only moving at a turtle's pace, right? It's increasing year over year, but it's just like, how's this going to make me millions of dollars? Because that's my goal. My first goal is to have $28 million tucked away, paying me dividends or growing at a rate that makes a 5% yearly withdrawal reasonable. So like, that's my first goal. I say first because it's order of importance to me, not necessarily order of what it's going to happen. But like, my second goal is to make $10 million a year in personal income. I'm not going to get there by continuing to be somebody's senior media buyer or head account manager or even chief revenue officer or head of paid traffic. Like, I'm not going to get there and reach those goals that way because that is what I earn on labor and it's not what I earn on productizing my knowledge and selling it. And so when you productize your knowledge and sell it, then you have a ton of upside because there's no possible way I can perform a hands-on service for 10,000 people a year. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to publish 10,000 people a year. I just can't, right? But I can sell 10,000 products a year to the people that I help to help them get further without me. So I can still help people and have impact on their journey without having to personally service them by productizing my knowledge and selling it. And so like right now, when I service people on average, I make 150 grand a year per person that I publish. That's the current numbers. I'm sure it'll increase. But like, if I could do 10,000 people a year at 150 grand, then I would be filthy rich. Yeah, if I could do that, then I would make $1.5 billion a year. I would love that. Can't do that. But I can sell 10,000 people at an average value of $500. That's a lot more achievable because I productized it now. And even though it's a lot less, but I can make $5 million from that, right? So like, I can do that and it doesn't require me to be behind the computer for all 10,000 people like it would to service people, right? So much easier scale for cash flow there. So to close out this video, my message to you is think about all the ways that you can help people and then think about who needs your help the most in each of these waves. Weigh it out. Whatever's the heaviest, whatever's the biggest problem to solve that is targeted at people who can afford to pay for it. That is what you sell. And you just need to productize your expertise so that you can unlock scale.